What about our mate Sharri Markson? If you missed her show tonight, and you shouldn't because she breaks so much news, it'll often be the front page that'll be there tomorrow. She gives you a little preview of it, and she had one heck of an allegation, which is that, there was a funding group that the Australian government pulled money from because of its connections to China, but that very think tank was, lecturing Labor MPs in the shadow cabinet, as Labor MPs were essentially told, shut up, don't talk about China, because don't cause a fuss. Here's Sharri.
The overall message that Labor MPs say is that they've been told it's better to stay quiet about China rather than cause a fuss. In response to questions, Penny Wong strongly rejected suggestions that any Labor MPs have been silenced or stopped from signing the letter or joining the group, and her own Twitter account and her own commentary suggests quite strong comments when it comes to Hong Kong. But Anthony Albanese's leadership team say that the view that politicians actually help Beijing's strategy by ratcheting up the rhetoric for domestic purposes is not unique to Allan Gyngell or China Matters.
All right, let's talk about free speech, Albo style, with two senators and a future senator, if she'd like to be, none other than Jim Molan, with James McGrath, and none other than the beautiful Liz Storer. Jim, let's start with you first. Does it surprise you that a group that the federal government defunded because of its links to China was actually lecturing Labor MPs, and the result of it is they're not going to annoy China by, pointing out what they do?
Yes, it was absolutely fascinating to hear what Sharri said and what she has revealed. I think the important point about this is that people like Allan Gyngell consider that the management of the relationship is far, far more important for us, Paul, than the actual statement of our national interest. So, what apparently was said at that shadow cabinet briefing was, don't make waves about this. This is a very difficult relationship, and it would be best if you kept quiet. Well, I do not believe that, and there is so much going on at the moment, and it all needs to be said.
Well, this is it. I mean, literally, James McGrath, China was hacking Australian interests. They were doing so as late as last week, from companies to power companies to federal parliaments to political parties. You've been in the Senate for a long time. Have you seen a lot of people, look, I know there's a Kimberley Kitchings, but generally speaking, Labor MPs who jump to their feet to speak about authoritarian China? I think not.
No. Labor in the Senate summed up by Kim Carr, in terms of his obsequious approach to China. It is very sad how modern Labor are so quiet about the bullying nature of China. So if it wasn't for people on our side of politics and the odd outlier like Kimberley and a couple of others, Labor would be totally silent on this issue of China.
Yeah, does it surprise? I mean, it is this thing again, Liz, where if you can't stand up for the freedoms that are Australia, if you can't call out China for a disproportionate response to our original sin of saying there should be an inquiry into something that's killed more than 300,000 people, whose side are you on?
Couldn't agree more, Paul, and yet we've seen them kowtow like never before over these past few months, because the more there is to cover up, the more sins China has rather openly committed in the last few months, the more covering up they've got to do, the more smothering the truth they've got to do, and they have been exposed time and time again. Here in WA, we have a very, very friendly premier to China, and it just seems to be rife throughout Labor.